Viewer note: this story is purely fictional and intended for entertainment purposes only. However, some content may be disturbing to certain audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Chapter 17: The Change of the World, Digital Currency. The transformation of the financial system was sweeping the globe. Not with gunfire, or protests, or dramatic announcements, but with a quiet, almost eerie force that was reshaping everyone's understanding of money. In Dragonia country, commercial banks swiftly aligned with the central bank, undergoing integration and restructuring, while also opening up those long-sealed old account books. And this time, the rules were cold, absolute, unforgiving. Like a giant five-finger mountain, they came down mercilessly. No interest on any debt may exceed 20% of the principal, not 1% more. The snowballing high-interest loans, compound interest traps, and credit harvesting schemes of the old world, nullified. Under this new rule, they simply no longer worked. But even more radical and ruthless was the complete disappearance of physical currency. AI systems moved with surgical precision. Across the nation, every banknote and coin in the hands of the people was transformed by system command into digital numbers dancing inside accounts. No transition period, no exceptions. Payment platforms seamlessly connected to the national central system, and then, in perfect alignment, integrated with the global digital currency network. From that moment on, every single movement of money would be recorded, tagged, verified, and traced. Under the new rules, the gray zones of the old world had nowhere left to hide. The central AI system acted like an invisible SkyNet, spread out behind every financial transaction on the planet. Cold, precise, tireless. Every transaction was recorded in real time, then fed into a vast cross-referencing system that checked it against personal tax records, civil servant salary slips, standard job compensation benchmarks, fair market transaction prices. Any wealth fluctuation that showed a significant deviation from these baselines, it stood out like a spark in the dark of night, bright, obvious, and impossible to hide. "Hey, old Zhang," someone whispered in the office break room, voice low, a hint of schadenfreude in their tone. "Did you hear about that Wang guy down in South City? The one with all the tricks?" The other guy snorted, waving his hand over the steam rising from his thermos. "Please. All his little schemes, swapping cash for antiques and paintings, trying to smuggle them out. Guess what? The ship hadn't even left port when the freeze order hit. The AI had already peeled back all his little tricks." The first man continued, shaking his head. "Didn't leave him a damn thing. You really think a new disguise fools the system? Once, the markets were flooded with shady ads. Emergency discount, cash forex deals, prime time for offshore asset allocation, confidential, legal and compliant investment opportunities, risk-free. But now, those little flyers, they melted away like ice cubes tossed into boiling water, vanishing without a trace. And their publishers? One by one, they got called in for a little chat. Their advertising campaigns? Seized overnight. Why? Because those so-called smart guys forgot one thing. The Supreme Council's SkyNet already covered the entire globe. No matter how you tried to hide your money, whether as overseas real estate, offshore company shares, or fake investment projects, as long as the final ownership chain led back to the same name, the AI could lock it down in an instant. And forget those idiots trying to stuff their dirty cash into so-called Crux Nation ultra-private accounts. Pathetic. The global digital finance system had achieved true interoperability. Every single cent was tracked, every transaction logged. If you wanted to claim ownership of an asset, you had to prove its legal origin. Refuse to explain? Fine. But once the deadline passed, the system would automatically confiscate it, every last cent. And as for those so-called investment gurus and crypto lords who used to hype up private, unregulated digital coins, they got wiped out. From the moment the Supreme Council launched its reforms, those wild currencies were sentenced to death. No exceptions. When all nations completed their account registration and currency conversion processes, a series of audit reports were delivered to high-level meeting rooms. And when those numbers were laid out one by one, there it was, a gap. A massive, silent, suffocating gap between the total amount of registered digital currency and the physical currency issuance records previously held by central banks. A chasm, staring everyone in the face. It didn't make a sound, but it spoke louder than any accusation ever could. It silently delivered a cold, hard truth. That gap? It represented the long-hidden, unspoken, and still surfacing sources of ill-gotten wealth from the old world. In a corner of the room, an audit officer stared silently at the screen. The cold glow reflected off his tightly pressed lips and the slight furrow in his brow. He knew just how many fish were still hiding in that massive digital black hole. How much wealth was still trying to stay buried, disguised as legitimate, hidden in offshore shells and anonymous accounts. But he also knew this, that SkyNet had already been cast, and the new civilization was not stopping.